نحمده ونستعينه ونستهدي ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد يا الإخوة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله ونسأل الله تعالى أن يغفر لنا ذنوبنا ويكفر عنا سيئاتنا نسأله بعلم نافع ورزق واسع وعليه نتوكل وإليه المصير ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Praise be to Allah. We'll begin always by praising Allah, our Creator, our Master, our Lord, and we send peace and praise on His final Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We pray to Allah to accept from us, to forgive us, to shower His mercy upon us. We beg Allah for His forgiveness. We ask Allah to give us useful knowledge and wide sustenance, and on Allah we utterly depend, and to Him is the goal. After a long break for Ramadan, shall we recommence, and hopefully towards the end, of course, although towards the end doesn't mean there's little to left regarding the story of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life and seerah, because so much happens in Medina. If you remember where we were last time when we left after the treaty Uloom-ul Hudaybiyyah, which after which revelation of Surah Al-Fath was revealed, if you remember, Surah number 48. And if you were to contemplate and recite and reflect on that surah, it gives you so much of what was going on at that time. There's so many lessons, of course, in it. For us from Hudaybiyyah, his treaty, which we covered in the past already, and the aftermath of it, some of the believers trying to come to Mecca, like Abu Basir, being sent back, and joining those on the sea coast of Mecca, and eventually the Meccans begging them to be taken back because they took it upon themselves, because of the enmity shown to them by the Quraysh, to get their own back on the caravans that were the coastal route caravans. Abu Basir was joined by the son of Suhail, Abu Jandal, who also tried to leave Mecca, remember, during the treaty. But because his father was doing the treaty, he forbade him to go, and the Prophet ﷺ had to accede. But saying to both Abu Basir and to Abu Jandal, Allah will find you a way. Have patience, have sabr, Allah will find you a way. There was a way found eventually, and without Rasulullah ﷺ breaking his treaty, and that was very important. And as I mentioned before, Imam Zuhri says, and many ulama, Imam Zuhri is tabi'i, many ulama, that the great victory, Fathul Mubin, the clear victory mentioned in Surah Fath, was about Hudaybiyyah. Because when it was revealed, Fathul Makkah hasn't happened. So the great treaty is because of peace. Peace is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants in the land. Peace is what gives chance for His message to be heard in an environment which is conducive, most conducive to people realizing and appreciating truth, not when it's full in a battle situation of war and hatred. Because Shaitan uses that to blind human beings. True, isn't it? Anger, hatred, all these things lead us to blindness. Not even just in battle or in the case of guidance even, but in everyday life. And that's why we have the Prophet ﷺ recommending the angry person first to not get angry. La taghdab, as though we could do that. But la taghdab means also that you don't get an angry, don't let your anger drive you to do or say things. Anger can be there, it's natural human being feeling, yeah? But to control it, to control anger. And so much so that he told the one who's standing to sit down when they're angry, and when the one who's sitting down to lie down, yeah? Or even making wudu, etc. This is all so that we don't get blinded. So hatred, rancor, anger, warfare, pride, all these things were blocking the way. So Hudaybiyyah is that peace in which acts as a fertilizer, yeah, for sincere people then, and that's why it is said in transmissions that now people began to hear the message, and almost anybody from the Arabian tribes and peninsula around Medina, because Sahaba now started traveling freely without fear of being, under attack. Because remember, Quraysh, there were some still elements and areas of warfare. It's not that it was all resolved with Hudaybiyyah, but majority is, because the biggest fight is the Quraysh, and they have most of the alliances of the significant tribes. Prophet ﷺ in Medina had made alliances with some other tribes around Medina through various ways and means. So, but it became so much so that traveling and da'wah became widespread, and hence that's what we said last time as well, that more people embraced Islam in the 18 months to 2 years after Hudaybiyyah than all the time before. Ulama say, well, look, why? He said, because if you look at Hudaybiyyah, when they came to do the Umrah, the Sahaba with the Prophet ﷺ, there's almost 1,500. And if you look, when the Sahaba come with the Prophet ﷺ to Fatu Mecca, which we'll come to later, there's 10,000 Sahaba. And as I said to you last time, majority of those who were actually in the opposition, even at Hudaybiyyah, even at late stage of Hudaybiyyah, yeah, when Fatu Mecca comes 2 years later, they're not there in the opposition. They're behind the Prophet ﷺ marching into Mecca. The objective isn't to kill and destroy people, and that's what you see throughout the life of Rasulullah ﷺ. He's always trying to save people. It's not he who instigates wars, as some from the Muslim ulama have been misled. Yeah. Majority realised the Prophet ﷺ wasn't initiating. Some historians say that, and therefore it gave chance for those, and based on all kinds of weak reports or fabricated stories which have been mentioned, and it gave chance for Orientalists to play on those kind of stories, yeah? Those kind of stories, murdering this, murdering that, and all this. I mean, in reality, if we look at Ka'b ibn Ashraf, what we mentioned in the past as well, it wasn't a murder. Yeah? It was a state high treason execution. Because of treason. The Prophet's way was always to try and save, and this is what he wanted. The Prophet wanted peace. Even Sahaba didn't understand, even senior Sahaba didn't understand this kind of treaty of Hudaybiyyah, which was weighed heavily in favour, it seemed, of the Quraysh. Yeah? But the Prophet was agreeing to all the things, even though there seemed to be, and despite what the Sahaba thought, or majority of Sahaba thought, and of course it produces its fruits. The results were the swelling of numbers of believers, because once the message was heard without that rancor and hatred, it hit the heart. It hit the hearts, and in that is lessons for us as well. In any situation, the Quran is full of lessons for us, but Seerah itself shows the lessons and blessings of having an opportunity to live with people in peaceful times, whether in their country or whether on the borders, or it applies to us as well, and it applies especially to us, because we are ambassadors of this deen. come to a land where even a century ago Muslims didn't imagine they would come and settle here, and make their homes here. They didn't imagine that. So whatever they're writing or rating or whatever they're saying in those times, they cannot imagine. They're talking for their context and time. Whether it's during colonialism, in the Middle East or in India, what people fail to understand and realize, and this is very important for young people studying Islam, I found over the years from 70s onwards, is that the writings of predecessors, however big the shuyukh were or however famous they were, however major and brilliant they were, and there were many brilliant, always, if you're going to read contextualize. They're talking in their time. They're not living in Britain. And we said this for decades, but young people sometimes just get, they're taking everything. Not young people. Scholars have done that as well. Lock, stock and barrel, take it and apply it as though it was now. Ibn Taymiyyah, he's wrote some really, harsh things and this and that. But Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, is talking in his time. He's talking in his times when Muslim state is under attack from the Tartars. Warfare is going on, and there's a state of warfare between Christendom and Islam as well. So when you're reading those things and their attitude towards Christians or Jews, they're talking about in a warfare situation. When you read about things that are said in books and writings in regards to Islam in the last century under colonialism, then those scholars are writing because they're being occupied by colonialists. So you contextualize and give them their excuse. They may still have got it wrong, their interpretation, and often people did, because they're human beings. So this is very important to analyze anything that's been said or rated or written in the past. And therefore opinion of scholars, you see. That's what Ibn al-Qayyim and others, many others, have always said it, that fatwa is based on its time and place. Time and place. You have to understand society to be able to apply. Of course you have to understand the deen. You have to know that in depth. But to be able to apply it and give people guidance, you have to understand the society and time they're living in. And perhaps the time doesn't mean centuries have got to go by. The time can change the opinion of a scholar in their own lifetime. And the most famous for that, and actually wasn't just Imam Shafi'i, happened with all scholars as they travelled and went around. Imam Shafi'i's, the Shafi'iyya madhab is well known from Imam Shafi'i himself, not the madhab. Shafi'i's own madhab and opinion on so many issues changed in his own lifetime as he moved from Iraq to Egypt. So they call him madhab Qadim, the old madhab, and madhab Jadid, the new madhab of Imam Shafi'i himself, changing on the same issues his opinions. And no wonder Ibn al-Qayyim and others said, of course, that's the basis for that, that you cannot just uproot. Of course, for lay people, it's not their responsibility. They often don't understand. But ulama and imams need to teach them to understand. So they don't just take lock, stock and barrel anything that anybody's saying, the imported imam idea. That's the issue with it. Because if you're still teaching what was taught 200 or 300 years ago from the old books, and many of the Darul Uloom often are, without adding to it, adding doesn't mean outside Islam, but you're teaching from a time, often in the Indian subcontinent. When you go into fatwa, it becomes very tricky. Tricky because they were in their context and time, they were thinking those things. And especially when it comes to relationships between Muslim, these kinds of things. They have a big effect, the impact on the surrounding. And you see Hudaybiyyah, how it makes such an impact. And so peace from the time of the Prophet, you see that it's a great opportunity to share the beauty of this deen. The mercy and forgiveness and kindness and love. Not the verses to do the ayatul safe as we talked about. The verses of the sword. فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثُقِفْتُمُوهُمْ فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثُقِفْتُمُوهُمْ. Kill them wherever you find them. Which of course English Defence League and others go around quoting, but sometimes it annoys me and amazes me how people are not able to even answer that kind of thing because they don't realise how it's there. No, you don't deny it. Don't answer it by saying the Bible contains a lot of horrible things as well. What does that mean? I heard somebody say that. Oh, well, the Bible contains that means we have a lot of horrible things as well as the Bible then. What kind of answer is that? That's ignorance. So, context and Hudaybiyyah has so many lessons in it for us about the purpose of this thing, about the purpose of the coming of Rasulullah. That's what he was trying to achieve. Not convert everybody. No, he was trying to have an atmosphere which was conducive. Yeah? Not to prevent him from sharing the word. Sharing the word. So if one has an opportunity to be able to share the word, the idea isn't take your flags out and put La ilaha illallah on them and say we come to take over, Downing Street. This is the complete deviation and off. This, if they've understood that, then they understood or misunderstood what the Quraysh misunderstood. The kuffar, they were thinking, oh, he's coming to take over our, isn't it? That's what stopped them seeing. They were wanting to lose their position. He's coming to, undercut our political. But no, reality is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives that to whom He pleases. And in the end, with all the Muslim Ummah, look, most of the power and control is in the hands of others. Allah decides to do that. Yeah. But Allah didn't send us to just go and put flags on the places of power, etc. He gives it to those who are most worthy. To those who are most worthy, and it may not be Muslims, as we can see. Yes? Those who will create least anarchy. Many ulama said this, by the way. I'm not the only one saying it. Many ulama said this. The ones who create, from centuries they've been saying it. That Allah can give power. So, if we get obsessed with power, and ruling over people, subjugating people, we misunderstood the message of this thing. And that's not to say Islam has nothing to do with politics. That's the other extreme. Because everything is politics. Everything is politics. What isn't politics? So that's a silly approach as well, that Islam has nothing to do with politics. Just sit in the mosque and worship up and down, and then no wonder then a separation takes place between people's lives and ibadat, when you create that kind of atmosphere as well. And you have the most corrupt people generally, not everybody, in the corridors of power. Because you said Islam has nothing, religion has nothing to do with politics. Well, if you're going to say that, that's what's going to happen. We want trustworthy, God-loving people who are truthful, honest, upright to be in those positions as well as other positions, don't we? Who doesn't want that? So in that sense, that's the idea. So that's really a recap on, before we stop for Salatul Asr, on Hudaybiyyah and its lessons. And you understand from what the Prophet ﷺ were willing to give, as even as people will now say, oh, compromise. I remember in the 80s and 90s, we used to get these kind of people. Astaghfirullah, you bunch of compromisers, they don't understand. Black and white under Islam, learn 2 or 3 hadith, and somebody's brainwashed them. Do you know about Hudaybiyyah? What the Prophet ﷺ was compromising? That's how some of the Sahaba felt. Why are we compromising here? We can kick them in. You read the story and you see. Follow the Prophet, not the ones who misunderstood. Don't think you're them. They understood in the end. And the Prophet ﷺ, you don't want to put Muhammad Rasulullah? No problem. And they say, Astaghfirullah, how dare you make that blah, 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 blah. What was more important? Yeah? It doesn't take away his nubuwwah. Doesn't take away his risala. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So there are areas Yeah, and then you have to start, as ulama discuss, weighing up the lesser of the two evils. Because you don't always have black and white choices of 100% right, 100% wrong. Oh, I can make it 100% right. You don't get those kind of choices in life. Yeah? But if you can get 10% better, right? Are you going to take that, or are you just going to say, oh, forget it, I don't want the 10% better, I'll just carry on waiting, carry on with your evil. No, you want to reduce evil, don't you? So in life, that's the kind of choices that you're given to make decisions on. As they asked Ibn Taymiyyah about the Tartars and the Mongols, for a fatwa they said, oh, these people are, because they're now living in the land of the Muslims, in the Sham area, etc. And Ibn Taymiyyah, what's your legal opinion on these people? We're not supposed to allow, they're going around drinking khamr. Should we stop them? Because, you know, we have to prohibit the evil. It's our duty, isn't it? Otherwise we're doing sin. So see, the legal opinion, and on a superficial understanding, they're right. Yeah. Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu, the hadith I mentioned to you before. Whoever sees an evil, then they should change it with their hands. So that's what they're applying. So ask Ibn Taymiyyah, should we be stopping them? He said, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, no, leave them to drink. They're the enemy. When they're drunk, they're less likely to go around killing Muslims than when they're not drunk. If you sober them up, they'll go around killing more. So he said, leave them. Yeah? Leave them. So which was more important? Safeguarding life, than actually applying the superficial understanding of the code of Islam. Oh no, we're going to stop them. Let's try and understand its context. We'll stop there. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. So, Hudaybiyyah, people start coming to Islam, including the likes of prominent people like Khalid ibn Walid and Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As and Khalid ibn Walid were key people. Amr ibn al-As was the one who was, he's a very shrewd person, yeah, also very clever, but also connections as well. He was the one sent to Najashi to try and bring the believers back from, because he had connections there. And so that's Amr ibn al-As, Khalid ibn Walid together. They were, of course, great generals as well, and being key in the defeats of the believers in Uhud, for example, and also they played big roles in the trench, Khandaq, Hudaybiyyah. If you remember, Khalid came the head of some cavalry to try and stir trouble, and the Prophet ﷺ managed to give him the slip and arrived in Hudaybiyyah. So, but during these coming months, wasn't long, we don't have authentic stories as to how, but you'll find it in Tabri and not Tabri, but certainly riwayat in Seerah writers, which are not authenticated, but it'll give you an idea, possible, some of the stuff that the likes of Khalid ibn Walid, for example, that it mentions that the fact that Quraysh, with all their might and pomp, were not able to crush the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, in Uhud, and then the military might gathered together for Khandaq. They were able to, these were affecting him. Allah only knows, because we don't have anything from his mouth which is authentic in Hadith saying that. It's possible, it's a gradual process possibly, and also the fact that Prophet ﷺ managed to give him the slip at Hudaybiyyah, Allahu Alam. But he did embrace Islam and he went to Medina. We find that in all the reports, if you bring them together, certainly he seems to have met Amr ibn al-As on the way. They didn't go out together from Mecca together, but on the way to Medina, they seem to come across each other's path and go to Medina together then. and both embraced Islam at the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam takes this opportunity now to do a few things after Hudaybiyyah, aside from the da'wah that is going on and people are coming in droves to Islam and also coming to Medina as well, you know. And during this period after Hudaybiyyah and 6th, 7th year, around just before Khaybar perhaps, Abu Hurairah, Abdurrahman his name was, embraced Islam. So very late on, yeah, and he came from a poor background. So he was joined the people, Ashab as-Sufa, he said. Not people of the bench, but people of the sheltered accommodation. So he joined them, and his avidness for learning is quite clear to this day. The number of hadith reported by Abu Hurairah, and look at when he comes into Islam. Yeah. Perhaps this is also just before this, perhaps, or around this time, is also Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, the son of Amr ibn al-As, who just embraced Islam. He's still a young man, so he's also learning a lot from the Prophet ﷺ as well, and he transmits many hadith as well. But Abu Hurairah is very famous. Some people have tried to discredit Abu Hurairah because he reported so many hadith. How could it be when he joined so late? Yeah, 6th, 7th year of Hijrah, and the Prophet ﷺ only lived another 4 years or so. But if you're Ashabu Sufa, you're there day and night in the mosque of Nabi with the others, then it's very possible.
I was told he's exceptionally gifted. He was,
Many were, yeah, he was one of them. And that's why he said, Abdullah ibn Umar, for example, he said the only reason why Abu Hurairah says he knows more hadith than I do is because he writes them down. But he was exceptional in learning off by heart. And as I mentioned, right at the beginning when we started and discussed hadith, people have this idea that nothing was written down then for, decades or 1.5 centuries until then hadith collectors started writing. It's nonsense. Abu Hurairah might have learnt off by heart, but all his students, who were other Sahaba and Tabi'een, they were all writing from him. And their manuscripts became available to those who came after them, of Tabi'een and Tabi'een. They are well noted, yeah, for those who are hadith scholars. They know them. They know who wrote and whose manuscripts, reporting from the lips of Abu Hurairah as he's narrating hadith. So anyway, that's also a time. Prophet ﷺ himself needed to deal with a couple of situations. Dawah was a great opportunity that can carry on. But the threat of warfare hadn't finished, because Quraysh was the big element. If you look at Khandaq, who played a part in it, and who was behind it all, yeah, not completely, because Quraysh obviously had the enmity, but the Jews in Khaybar. Banu Nadir playing a major role, and one of the Jewish tribes who'd been evicted there. Yeah. So in Khandaq they played a role. They'd already played a role before that in stoking up the thing for Uhud. Before that, Khandaq they played a role in trying to stir up the Bani Qurayza from within to commit treason. Yes, during battle. Yeah. So one of the leaders of Banu Nadir went from Khaybar to do that. Well, these things are documented. And they're the ones who paid the Ghatafan, who were the allies of Khaybar. The Ghatafan tribe. They played a major role. 4,000 or 5,000, whatever cavalry came from Ghatafan for the Battle of Khandaq already. So these people haven't disappeared. Quraysh there's a treaty with. But Ghatafan and the allies at Khaybar, the hotbed of conspiracy and hatred from Medina, who want to destroy Medina and come back and take over Medina, is there. Right? So that's going to be dealt with, and we'll see what happens in regards to that. But the Prophet ﷺ, peaceful times, also started now sending his emissaries out in this time. at the end of 6th year of Hijrah, shortly after Hudaybiyyah in other words, and beginning of 7th year of Hijrah in Muharram, the Prophet ﷺ is sending out emissaries. Tabari reports and Ibn Sa'd in his Tabaqat. Imam Tabari is the one who did the tafsir of the Quran. He wrote a volume on Seerah and history, Tarikh. So he reports, and Ibn Sa'd in Tabaqat, but they tended to put everything and anything in. So Waqidi, a lot of his narrations, the famous lying historian, many of his reports are Ibn Sa'd and in Tabari. So he gives details as to who sent to who. It's possible on a historical sense because it doesn't have any relation to absolute legal edict as it is. So we can perhaps say historical wise it may well have happened. And certainly it's reported in Sahih Muslim from Anas. He says that the Prophet ﷺ, قال أنس ibn Malik, كتب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى كل جبار يدعوهم إلى الله. That the Prophet ﷺ wrote to every tyrant, ruler, he meant all those rulers around. That's Anas's word. Okay? You notice when the Prophet ﷺ writes, he didn't write, oh you tyrant ruler, ya Jabbar. Anas is writing Jabbar. It's his words, or saying it certainly. So كتب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى كل جبار يدعوهم إلى الله, to invite them to God, to invite them to Islam basically. وسمى منهم, and he mentioned some of the names, Kisra وقيصر والنجاشي. وقال Imam Muslim, some say it was Imam Muslim, others say it was another Rawi, that ليس بالنجاشي الذي أسلم. So he says to all these times, and some of the names he mentioned was Kisra, or the Khosros. Kisra, the Persian emperor, known as Khosros, and Qaisar, Caesar, the Byzantine emperor of the time, Heraclius, or Heraclius as the Arabs called him, and I mentioned Najashi. Najashi is any king of Ethiopia, they call him Najashi. There's only one Najashi. So remember we said that the Najashi that the Prophet ﷺ sent the Sahaba to in the 5th year of Prophethood was called Asham. Imam Muslim says this is not the same Najashi he's writing to. Right? This is a different one. He's saying this is not the one who embraced Islam. And how do we know he embraced Islam? Because the Prophet ﷺ is authenticated in authentic hadith that the Prophet ﷺ announced in Medina the death of Najashi when he died. Your brother has died. So he gathered the Sahaba together and made some rows and prayed Salatul Janazah, doing 4 takbirat in his salah. It's well documented. And that's why the majority opinion is, and authentic based on this, that you can do Salatul Ghaib. The person who's not there, you can do Janazah prayer in absence, because the body wasn't there. Some tried to say the body was lifted and brought there. Nothing authentic on that, I assure you. It's people trying to justify that, but anyway, adding miracles where there's no miracles, there's no need for it. Imam Muslim says it's not the same, okay? That depends on when Najashi died and the funeral prayer was said. If the funeral prayer had been already done before this 6th, 7th year, then Imam Muslim is right. Okay? You follow me? Because if the funeral prayer had been done later, as other scholars claim, and I haven't found the evidence for it yet, I will keep looking. Many say, like Ibn al-Qayyim and others, that it was done in the 9th year after Hijrah, this Salatul Janazah of Najashi. If that is the case, then Imam Muslim is not right. As Ibn al-Qayyim says, he says Imam Muslim's opinion, he's mistaken. Because Najashi, the one who embraced Islam, was still alive. And perhaps he embraced Islam now, when he receives a letter. Prophet ﷺ writing to call them to Islam. Perhaps he accepts Islam now. And 3 years later, 2.5 years later, he dies as a believer. Yeah. So there is debate. It's not absolute just because Imam Muslim has an opinion. Yeah, that's his opinion. Yeah. He hasn't got it from the Prophet ﷺ. When he's saying that, he or a Rawi or one of the narrators is saying it from themselves. Yeah. Anas isn't saying it either, by the way. So this is report. But why we mention Muslim report is because it mentions an authentic report from Anas, from Sahabi, which is mentioning that these letters are going out to these people. So we accept that. And Tabari mentions who was sent, confirmed by Bukhari and Muslim as far as Qaisar was concerned, Heraclius. It was Dahiyatu Kalbi. Dahiyatu Kalbi, one of the Sahabi of Rasulullah, was sent actually to Sham, to the Ghassan leader, who were the Arabs who were Christians in Sham, in Syria, the Ghassan tribe. But they were under the lordship of the Eastern Roman Byzantium Emperor. Yeah? Heraclius. So that letter sent to him was taken by him or one of his emissaries and messengers from Dihatu Kalbi to Heraclius. Dihatu Kalbi doesn't go himself to Heraclius. You got that? Yeah. That will come to. The contents of the letters, there is nothing authentic or established from ahadith about the contents of the letters to Najashi, to Muqawqis. Muqawqis is the ruler of Egypt. Yeah? Ruler of Egypt in Alexandria. They were known as Muqawqis, just like Najashi, Muqawqis, Qaisar. They're all, they're not actually named. Muqawqis isn't his name. Muqawqis is like a title of kingship again, the leader. Just like Kisra as well, is not his name. To the Persian emperor. So it is mentioned that Abdullah ibn Huzafa, some pronounce it Hudayfa, but Abdullah ibn Huzafa was sent to the Kisra. The contents of the letter comes in weak reports, nothing authenticated, except the contents of the letter to Heraclius comes in Bukhari and Muslim. So from that we can get an idea of the similarity of the letters. Okay? Some Orientalists even claim to have found some of those letters. Yeah? But whether they're true or not cannot really be corroborated because we don't have anything to reference them with. You understand? Whatever that letter says, and the Orientalist says, well, yeah, it seems it's the letter he sent to Egypt, the Prophet ﷺ, or this one he sent. We don't really know because we don't have any hadith to show what was written in those letters. Okay? So it's a question mark. Some historians have accepted it, and you'll find that sealed nectar, Mubarak Puri, he includes those letters as though they were perhaps authentic, but it's a question mark. Kisra, the Persian emperor, when he received the letter, what we do know from authentic hadith, that he tore it to pieces. He was so enraged because they're so arrogant. Persian emperors and also mushriks. Yeah, they're fire worshippers. Remember, the mushriks of Quraysh were much more in line with them than with the Christian rulers, the Roman emperor. So he, it is said, was insulted by the fact that how dare this slave. They saw the Arabs as just fodder, like farmers. Just barefooted herdsmen. That's how they saw them. That's how the Persian emperor and their courts and how they looked down upon these just, camel riders. That's how they saw them. So he's thinking, how dare this camel rider send me a letter putting his name next to mine. Yeah? So this was the arrogance. So he tore it up. And when the Prophet ﷺ was informed that what happened to the letter, Prophet ﷺ said, Allah tear him up in his kingdom. And it wasn't long after that actually the son of Kisra killed him and killed the father and took over. And it wasn't long after that, actually, a few years or so, that the Persian emperor was completely destroyed anyway. Yeah. Macaulcus, the Alexandrian ruler, or the ruler of Egypt in Alexandria, he received the message well, and we find that he sent gifts to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I heard there was I knew there was a prophet coming. I thought the prophet was going to come in Syria. I didn't realize that it was going to be in your people. So acknowledge the idea of a prophet coming. And remember, this is Christendom. And this is the closeness of Christendom, because they realize what prophethood, etc. is, and they're expecting a prophet. You'll see with this that Najashi, Macaulcus, Egypt, Ethiopia, and when we come to Heraclius, they're all waiting for a prophet. Yeah? As were the Jews. This is Christendom. Of course, you go to the Persian side, and they're not waiting for any prophet. Yeah, the heathens, the fire worshippers, the mushriks, idol worshippers, in that sense. So, he sent, it is mentioned in Seerah writings, gifts. And one of the things that he sends is, it mentioned jariyat, two, some translate it, and it can have both translations, slave girls. Jariyat can mean young women as well. Yeah? But some scholars argue, because the report mentions that of noble lineage, their nobility is well known of these jariyat, including one of them is called Maria al-Qubti. Qubti means Christian Copt. Yeah. The Christians of, as they are even today, of Egypt, are known as Copts. So it is true that Maria al-Qubti came from Macaulcus, sent with the emissary to the Prophet ﷺ as a gift. Now, some say, so there's a difference of opinion amongst ulama of Islam. Those who say she was a slave girl, and the Prophet, she was gifted to the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't marry her. Yeah, she was a slave girl. Yeah, and when the owner, the king, sends a slave girl to another king, that is marriage by itself. And of course, slave girls were allowed at that time. They're not banned with other Muslims, so there's no harm in the Prophet ﷺ following that was allowed at that time. And the whole idea of slavery being different with Muslims and Islam than it is elsewhere. Others say, no, she was of noble blood, means she was sent as someone to marry. So the Prophet ﷺ married her. Yeah, Maria al-Qubti. And it is from Maria al-Qubti that the Prophet ﷺ has a son whose name was Ibrahim. Yeah, whose name was Ibrahim. Anything about other sons, we have nothing for any children from all the wives of Rasulullah ﷺ, and that will cover another time. I'll cover the topic of who the Prophet ﷺ married, when, etc. But he had no children from any of them except his first marriage. Yeah, and that marriage was all the time monogamous, only he was after Khadija, Umm-ul-Mu'minin Khadija radiallahu anha, that she passed away. The Prophet ﷺ married all the other wives, but all his children from Khadija. Yeah, and the indication we have that he certainly had one son called Qasim, because one of his kunyas, his name was Abul Qasim. Then there's stories about somebody called Tahir, Abdullah, others, etc. 3 or 4, but there's nothing authentic. We don't have anything authentic. But we know, what we know is none of them survived. So Ibrahim came after many years. For all those wives of the Prophet ﷺ, no children. But from Maria al-Qubti came Ibrahim. But he only lived a few years. Yeah, and he died. And that's what Allah willed. That's what Allah willed. In His wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ulama discussed this, of course, so that others wouldn't give him nubuwwah, etc., and carry on and say he was a prophet because his father was a prophet, etc., etc., etc. But Allah knew best if He was sealing the ending prophethood and the lineage of prophethood. He did. And Ibrahim died, and when he did die, Prophet ﷺ was very upset. very upset to show his humanness. Not that, well, he's going to paradise anyway, just laugh or take it easy. No, he was crying, he was in tears. So, and one of the Sahaba, I think it was Abdullah ibn Auf, couldn't understand. He said, Ya Rasulullah, tears? Why are you crying? Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ answered him that the heart is saddened and the eyes are full of tears. Yeah. But we don't say anything against Allah. Because Abdurrahman thinks that this is what's been forbidden, the crying and being sad. No. Wailing is what was forbidden. Yeah, so that's why Prophet ﷺ said, even though our hearts are saddened and our eyes are shedding tears, in other words, you're allowed to cry. Yeah, but we don't say anything. You don't wail against God and say, make statements, oh God, why have you done this? Cursed be this and cursed be that, blah, 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 blah. We don't say anything. So, that was something about Maria al-Qubti. What time is it? Now, the story of the letter arriving in the court of Heraclius, or Qaisar, or Caesar. Qaisar is a word for Caesar. Is a longer story. It's in Bukhari Muslim. It's a long narration. So, if I can cover it, do you want me to finish it today? I think if we can, try and finish in the next 15-20 minutes. Yeah. Bukhari and Muslim. Yeah, there's a part of the story which is narrated from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, who got it from Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu. By the way. Was that right? Should I say that?
It was the time of the Makkah one, he said.
Yeah. So we can say radiallahu anhu now. Yeah. We're beyond the time of Makkah. Although the story now is when he's not still believed. But of course he's passing his story on, and Abdullah ibn Abbas gets it from him after he embraces Islam. This is what happened. But part of the story of Bukhari is not that narration. It comes from another narration, and there can be a question mark as to eyewitness, and you'll see what I mean by it, okay? But it's in Bukhari and Muslim. So what happens, part of the story in Bukhari mentions that Heraclius was one of those who sort of was an astrologer. He tended to follow the stars and come to conclusions, right? And in a dream, he dreamt that his kingdom was taken over by a people who were circumcised. Yeah, people who were circumcised. So he mentioned it to his courtiers when he got the dream, because he looked, after the day after the dream, the story in Bukhari says, he looked really sad and worried. So he said, what's the matter with you? Oh, I had this dream. They said to him, well, he said, who are these people who are circumcised? And it shows you that Christians at that time are not practicing circumcision even. Yeah. And this practicing of circumcision hasn't completely missed out all Christians, but certainly it seems the Eastern Roman Empire Christians don't seem to be practicing circumcision from this narration. Because we have Christians in America now, majority of Christians practice circumcision. Yeah. But Europe, there's an issue with practicing circumcision among Christians. Anyway. So they say, well, the only people we know who are circumcised are Jews. And they don't have any power over us. They've already been, because they were subjugated and oppressed by Heraclius, yeah, in Sham, and they're dispersed all over the place. The only peoples that gave them some credibility and recognition and gave them their rights to live by their religion as citizens full was Medina. The Prophet ﷺ, and look what they did, they betrayed him. Those ones at that time, doesn't include all the Jews ever to come, like we Muslims behave often. Yeah, all of the Jews are people of the children of Khanazir and Qarad, monkeys and pigs. That's what we Subhanallah, complete disgraceful interpretation of Quranic ayat and history to include everybody in the same boat. Whereas Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Laysu sawa'a. They are not all the same. Yeah, anyway, I don't go there. So they said it's only the Jews. But if you wish, you can give a royal, make a royal law, and we'll go and kill all of the Jews, and that'll be the end of it. You can rest and sleep easy. As it happens, it goes on. The very next day, or within the next day or so, somebody arrives from the Ghassan tribe, where Diyatul Kalbi's letter has gone, remember? Bringing the message from the messenger of God, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ghassan, even though they're Christian, they're Arabs. Yeah? They're Arabs. So even them, there'll be Arabs and there'll be Christians who are Christians amongst the Arabs in the Ghassan tribe, and there'll be mushriks. The Arabs, it seems, they didn't know, the Roman Empire, that the Arabs continued with circumcision. Even the mushriks. It wasn't introduced by the Prophet ﷺ. It was introduced by Ibrahim alayhi salam. Yeah? But the Arabs continued that practice. So when he comes, the story carries on, to bring news of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Heraclius says, go and check him. What does it mean, go and check him? Go see if he's circumcised. This person coming from those. And they do, and they find he is. Now things are starting to take in question in his mind. And that's important why I mentioned that, because of what Heraclius says when the fully authentic story comes. Now, what happens? It seems that the letter is received by Heraclius from the Prophet ﷺ. And if we go and of course the letter comes in Arabic, written by scribes from the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ not written it himself. Scribes written it on his behalf, sent in Arabic, and somebody's going to be a translator in the Byzantine court to translate for Heraclius what it's saying. So when he receives the letter, some say he doesn't read the letter until Abu Sufyan arrives. There's no evidence for that. It is read at that time as well. It could be, but it's more likely that he received the letter and it was read and then he called for Abu Sufyan. And the letter, the Prophet ﷺ had written, began with, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. The ulama say, look, in writing to a non-Muslim, he still begins with, in the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Yeah. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, Min Muhammadin Abdullah wa Rasulih. From Muhammad. Yeah. Not the king of the Arabs or the king of Medina, yeah, but Abdullah. Look at the humility of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the slave of God and his messenger. Wa Rasulih. Remember, he was given the choice to be a king, prophet, messenger, or a slave messenger. He chose to be a slave messenger. So he gives that same humility. Then to who? Ila Heraclius, Azimur Rum. To who? To Heraclius, the leader, Azim, the great leader of Rome. Yeah, so it's like His Majesty. Yeah. The Majesty, the King of Rome. So it's with respect, you see. With respect. Not to Heraclius, the Trinitarian, yeah, who worships Mary and Jesus. Not to Heraclius the Kafir. Yeah, not to Heraclius who claims to be this and that, etc. So giving respect, and then the Prophet ﷺ says, Salamun ala man ittaba al-huda. Peace be upon the one who follows the guidance. So, some scholars use this as evidence about saying salam to Ahlul Kitab. I remember I discussed this with you many moons ago. The hadith to do with saying salam to Christians and Jews and non-Muslims. Yeah, and we discussed it at that time, so I don't want to discuss it now. But some use this as evidence to say, no, you're allowed to say salam to them. Look, the Prophet ﷺ writing it, he's initiating it, salam. Yeah. So there's some argument about it still. People say, well, he's saying salam, man ittaba al-huda. Whoever follows the guidance, he's saying salam to. If you don't follow it, there's no salam. But anyway, he's saying salam anyway, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then the Messenger of Allah, he says, Amma ba'd. Amma ba'd is Arabic way of coming to the point. What is the reason you're writing? All that was introduction. What is it that you want to say? That's why we say in khutbah, after alhamdulillah and all that, and we say, Amma ba'd. What do I want to say? This is what I want to say. فَإِنِّي أَدْعُوكَ بِدِعَايَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ. For surely I call you with the calling and invitation to Islam. Yeah. Aslim taslam. This is brevity of speech of Arabic. Yeah. With two words, the Prophet ﷺ says so much. Aslim taslam. Accept Islam. You accept Islam. Taslam, you'll be safe. It means you'll be safe in this world and in the hereafter. Aslim taslam. Two words. And it sounds so beautiful. This is why the Prophet ﷺ was given as a special virtue. He was given brevity of speech. Yeah, brevity of speech. And this is Arabic, you see. Aslim taslam. In two words, it says so much. يُؤْتِكَ اللَّهُ أَجْرَكَ مَرَّتَيْنِ. If you do accept Islam, not only you'll be safe, this world and the hereafter, but Allah will give you the reward twice over. One for believing in Isa alayhi salam, two for believing in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you realize, of course, that's from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in regarding to the Christians and Jews, that they'll be rewarded twice the reward. I haven't heard many Muslims use that for Christians actually. So that whatever we get as reward, if they're Christians, they're going to get twice the reward. Do we realize that? That's a great offer, isn't it? That's what it says. The Quran says it. To believe what they believed, and then to believe in this. The Prophet ﷺ saying it to not just Heraclius, means to all Christians. Yeah? That you're going to get twice the reward. So Christians do. فَإِن تَوَلَّيْتَ فَإِنَّ عَلَيْكَ إِثْمَ الْأَرِيسِيِّينَ. And if you turn away, then you will carry the sin al-arisiyin. Ulama have debate, but the best meaning is for those who are your followers. Some said it meant the farmers and the general people, but it means all the followers. You carry their sin because you've been a block to their guidance, it means. Yeah. Then the Prophet ﷺ quoted directly from the Quran. Ya Ahlul Kitab, تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. That's what was written in this letter, and that's how it ended. Say, O people of the book, come to that something which is common between us. That's why in Dawah, in the 70s and 80s, this ayah for us was really explained to us by our teachers and enlightenment for us how to be doing Dawah to Christians, etc. How to find common ground when you're doing Dawah with people Yeah? Not to find opposing poles, you're not going to get started, but find as much commonality as possible. Yeah? And it's through finding common ground then you're able to discuss the difference. So come to a common ground is a wisdom way of preaching. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّذِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, and discuss with them in a way that which is excellent, which is better and best. So سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَ وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, that Prophet ﷺ quoted in the Quran, that we will worship no one but God. Yeah? We will worship no one but God. وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا, and we will not associate anybody in Godhead with him. Saying it in a beautiful manner, without any disrespect to Isa alayhi salam or Maryam alayhi salam, is it? It's just making a very clear black and white statement of Tawheed, which they relate to, they understand. وَلَا يَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and that, yeah, no one will take from others and make them into what's the best translation? As lords. Yeah? Take others as lords besides Allah. Lords means priests and rabbis, raise them to the level, and so they're giving all the, no one will do that. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, and if you turn away, then say, be witness, بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ, that we have submitted as Muslims. So that was the letter sent. So, he calls, he says, finding who he is, find me, he says to his courtiers, citizens, because Arabs are always traveling, remember? لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشِ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. Yeah? So in the winters and summers, they're traveling and to do trade in Sham, the Quraysh. So find me someone, and this is Abu Sufyan saying, so they found me in Gaza, in Sham, with my companions, the traders who were with him from the Quraysh. They were mushriks. And he was summoned to the court of Heraclius. Abu Sufyan, big lord and everything in Mecca, is like a little toddler being brought in front of the court of Heraclius, yeah? Because for the Arabs, oh my goodness, a Roman emperor has beckoned and summoned him. Yeah, he's been taken in with his mates, dragged in to be presented. So Heraclius asked first, through the translator, which one of you, if any of you, is the nearest in lineage, in family link ties to this man, meaning Muhammad? Abu Sufyan said, I am. He said to his courtiers, bring him forward to in front of me and make his companion stand just behind him a little at a distance. So when I ask him about this man, if he says anything which is a lie, I want them to say that he is lying. So he's setting up a system to make sure he gets the truth. That's his way of doing it. Abu Sufyan is reporting this. So Abu Sufyan said, if anything on that day I wanted to do, I wanted to lie about this man, Muhammad, because he's not a believer, is he, Abu Sufyan? But I felt too shy and to be ashamed to be called by my companions behind me a liar, to have that name stuck to me. For that reason, I couldn't do anything but tell the truth. This is a mushrik feeling ashamed to be called a liar. Isn't that a lesson for many Muslims today, nowadays? How we don't even blink an eyelid and tell a lie. He's not a believer, but he doesn't want the shame of these guys behind him, because he's not necessarily worried that they're going to say he's a liar. It's Abu Sufyan. All his mates are going to say, he's a liar. How are they going to live with him afterwards? It's Abu Sufyan, leader of the Quraysh, so they're unlikely to say. But the fact that they would have known that Abu Sufyan's thinking that I've lied, he couldn't live with that. It's good, isn't it? You see? Can there be good in non-believers? Of course they can. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, I said to you many times, the hadith is, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have been sent to perfect, to complete the morals and behavior, good conduct of people. Meaning it was some there already, to make them better even, take them to a next level. Anyhow, that's what happens. I should stop there, shouldn't I?
Okay, leave it hanging. We'll have to come
Finish
to
the
it,
story.
inshallah.
Huh?
Finish the story.
Finish the story. You might be here till 9. Let me think.
It depends how you're telling it. I heard this story in 5 minutes. It's been going on for like 50 minutes.
You don't like the way I tell it then.
No. It's telling.
There's various ways of interpreting that, isn't there? I could definitely take it that way. If you want me to roll it up in 5 minutes, I can do Seerah in 2 hours as well if you want. Haven't you heard Seerah sessions where it says life of Prophet in Mecca, life of Prophet in Medina, and it's 2 hours? I don't think we've had that, have we?
No.
So what do you want me to do?
I think leave it.
Leave it on a
Inshallah, yes,
cliffhanger?
definitely.
Do it properly.
Inshallah.
Yeah, it will be properly, inshallah. So, because there's lessons in it, it's good lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see where Heraclius was as well, it's very important.
See, another benefit.
وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Remember me in your duas, brothers.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.